Mornings are better with Pacific Mornings, 5:31 PI.
It's 7:30 in the morning this morning, and what a beautiful morning it is indeed. Good to have your company with us this morning on Pacific Mornings. We got no Aggie, she's not feeling too well, so we do send our prayers out to her, but producer Levi here taking over for now. Now, we do love highlighting Samoa this week, and as we continue to celebrate Samoan Language Week, along with the language comes its culture, and to speak more on that this morning is PMN Samoa's very own Ella Loheni Stancil, and with that we say good morning, Ella, and welcome to the show.
Malo lava Levi, thank you so much for having me.
It's good to have you here. Is it nice being on that side of the studio and
Oh,
not having
you
to be
know
on
what?
this side?
I'm getting used to this side of the studio this week. I don't know what number interview this is, but very grateful.
Yeah, no, Ella's been the star this week, and you probably felt a lot, right? Because you've been doing interviews here and there, jumping around here. Went to Auckland Girls yesterday.
Yeah, it's been a very, very busy week, not only for me, but for the rest of my team. Lorenzo, as you know, he's always busy, but during Samoan Language Week, he's been so popular and everyone's been requesting him. We were at Auckland Girls Grammar yesterday, and Lorenzo was at Mangere College not long after. So I did have to take the show alone for half of it, but that just goes to show how loved our team is.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you guys are really passionate about it, and I like it, which is why I wanted to bring you onto the show. And we do want to speak about other things in terms of the culture, but before we get there, I really want to know what Samoan Language Week means to someone like you, who I know was brought up in Samoa, and I know you're in New Zealand, and the people that we've been speaking to are mostly New Zealand-based. Not that they haven't been to Samoa, but you're a young person who was bred in Samoa. So being in New Zealand now at this age, in our young 20s, what's it like celebrating Samoan Language Week for you, and what does it mean for you?
That's a really interesting question because, you know, in Samoa, we don't celebrate Samoan Language Week. You know, we don't have these language weeks. It's just every day. It's just the norm. But it's amazing to see our people here celebrating our languages, all of our languages, and really putting effort into these weeks with activities and really preserving and protecting our language. But what I guess what language means to me, what the Samoan language means to me, it's so important because we don't want our language to die with us. Yeah. And I think it is slowly dying. So I think it is up to us as the new generation to preserve and protect our language so that our children will know their language. But I really owe that to my upbringing in Samoa, because I honestly think that if I didn't grow up in Samoa, my language would not be as fluent. Yeah. So I'm very grateful to my family, especially my mum, for making that decision to raise me back home and really allowing me to immerse myself in my anganu.
So you really think it's on its way, not on its way to being a dying language, but are there things that you're noticing that is it since you've been in New Zealand or even in Samoa? Like, is it just the way the world is at the moment for you?
Yeah, I think, you know, it all starts in the family, and there is some personal responsibility that needs to be there. But I understand, like, some people are just too busy. But however, there are many resources out there that you can use to learn your language. Listen to our radio station, to the Samoan music. Just make little steps and be patient. But yeah, just make little steps to understand your language a bit more.
Yeah, one thing I noticed, one thing I liked that you said this week, and I think we spoke about it in the office, was about communication doesn't just have to be through language, through speaking, right?
Yes.
And so some of those ways, like, so for someone like me who's Samoan and I can't speak the language and stuff, but like you'll notice whenever I see siva or anything like that, it always brings something out of me, because if I can't speak it, that's how I like to show all songs or music and all that. That's how I like to
definitely
communicate my language. So for us who are maybe more New Zealand born and not as in touch with the language itself, is it still something to be able to produce communication through those different areas as well?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, language is not only spoken, it can be expressed through many different mediums, and I wouldn't let outside noise pressure you or dictate how you identify as a Samoan, because that's just who you are. Yeah. You're Samoan at the end of the day, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So I've seen language as a big barrier for our young people, and you know, sometimes they're just too scared because they don't want to get judged. So I think, you know, our people need to have an open mind and an open heart, a kind heart, and just be patient with anyone who's just trying to learn more.
Yeah, how do you then nurture your language here in New Zealand? Because I think is there more Samoans here in Auckland in particular than other cultures? I believe so.
Oh, definitely.
I think Samoans is the number one, right?
Yeah, and Samoan is the third most spoken language in New Zealand.
Wow, you see that? And so for you personally, then how do you nurture the language while being outside of Samoa?
Yeah. You know, it was really hard for me when I moved here because I went straight into university, you know, a very westernized system.
Yeah.
I pretty much just spoke English for the first 2 years. But it wasn't until I started working here and I became a host for PMN Samoa. That's when I really realized, wow, I have not been speaking Samoan enough.
Wow.
And when Lorenzo would talk to me in like formal Samoan, I'd be like, oh my God. Really be put on the spot. But it's been so incredible to learn from, you know, incredible individuals like Lorenzo, Kaisara, who's really helped me. And of course, my family, my nana, speaks to me in Samoan, and I always go to her for advice when I'm scripting something or translating something. So yeah, working for PMN Samoa and just Pacific Media Network as a whole has really helped me, not forsake that part of me.
Yeah. Now, I wonder because someone like me who might be a little bit nervous to speak the language sometimes publicly, even though you know it pretty well, you still feel those same nerves, right? Like it's probably the same amount of nerves, just at different levels of understanding, right?
Oh, absolutely. Because there's so many intricacies of the Samoan language.
Yeah.
And then you get into like formal Samoan,
Next
which
level.
is what, you know, the PMN Samoa team, they're very good at.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm quite young, so it can be quite daunting, but it's really challenged me to know that I can speak that way and I can learn how to speak that way. It's just about, you know what, just talk to your elders. Don't be afraid because they want you to learn, you know. They want to pass on that knowledge. So just, you know, talk to your grandparents, listen to the music that we're playing, but also know that there are many other ways that you can express your culture.
Yeah, no, definitely. If you're just tuning in, we're catching up with Ella Loheni Stancil, one of the hosts for PMN Samoa. One of the things I love about Ella is she takes her Samoan everywhere. And you just recently were in New York, and I saw a Central Park, right? Video where you do your siva, and I noticed that you love that, like that you're in your element when you're just right, because you're quite shy here and there, right? But when I see you do that, I'm like, man, where's the shy Ella gone? You know, so what is that for you? Because that's also another thing of communication, right? You're communicating something to someone through dance and not saying anything. So you're in New York.
Yeah.
And you're doing siva in Central Park, in the middle, right, of Central Park. What was that like for you, and sort of what does that mean to you, like on Samoan language week as well?
It was just something I had to do. I've always told myself wherever I go, I will perform a siva Samoan no matter where it is. And in this case, it was in Central Park, New York, which was amazing. I love New York, and it's just full of so much inspiration. And, you know, Central Park is so iconic. So I just had to do it there. And yeah, I am quite like, you know, soft-spoken and shy. But when I dance or when I perform a siva Samoa, I'm just in my own world.
Yeah.
And all I think about is that I'm actively preserving and protecting a mea sina that my ancestors passed on to me. So I don't have a reason to be shy and quiet. I deserve to shine, just like they did. But actually, a lot of the time, they didn't have the opportunity to shine.
Yeah.
So I take that as a great responsibility. And it's not about arrogance or, you know, cockiness. It's about really taking your stand and knowing that we exist in this big world, and that Pacific Islands exist in New York, in Central Park, New York. And yeah, that video is doing well.
Yeah, it is. A lot of people have shared that. Like, it's definitely, I think for me, what I've noticed is that when I see these things happen, people get like, I see the pride. I see people consistently, like, I see how proud they are when they do,
hope
like,
so.
you know what I mean? And it gives them something to share, something to offer from, especially if you're Samoan. So now we're done with all of that oogie-googie stuff. Let's get into the juice. Let's get into the meat of this convo. This is the true reason why I wanted to get Ella on here, because as nice as Ella is and all those things, there's a lot of things that Ella believes in as well. And I really wanted to get into this. So you're one of the few people that I know that wear the traditional malu, right? There's not a lot of my friends that have that. So you're one of the few people that I know. So I wanted to get your thoughts on other races wearing our Samoan tattoos on their body, and should they be allowed? I know we're going straight into the deep end, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that because I know that there's been conversations around it before. I've seen online conversations around certain things. I've seen there's anger. Some people are very much like, it's another version of sharing the culture, all these different things. But I wanted to get your view on it from someone who actually wears it with pride. I've seen the pride that you have in wearing it. What's it like for you if you were to see someone who has no ties to Samoa wear it because it looks cool? So your thoughts on that?
Okay, that's my cue to leave.
Yeah. And that's 521 PI.
Okay, goodbye. Oh, that is a very, very heavy question.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of opinions. I have a lot of feelings towards it because I personally know some people outside of our culture that wear our mea sina. Some in particular that I'm close to. And then on the other side of it, I think that we have shared enough of our culture with the world. And some things are meant to be kept sacred. However, you know, I personally know people who were gifted the malu or the sungaimiti because of their tautua to Samoa. And there's one person in particular, he actually lives in New York. He was part of the Peace Corps that came to Samoa a few years ago. And he really served the Samoan community in the form of education, and he helped build schools, and he was really invested in that village way of life, in the Samoa way of life. And his village, his host village, were begging him to get the sungaimiti. So there's special cases where, you know, I will give people some grace because the center of it all is tautua.
Yeah.
Or tautua matalilo, which is service that you don't see. The behind the scenes work that doesn't get recognized a lot of the time. And so when it comes to being gifted or receiving a malu or a sungaimiti, if you have that tautua matalilo, then I will respect you no matter what race you are.
Right. But if you don't, Ella, like I'm talking about someone who's come from America or who's come from, I don't know, Australia or anything that look at that and go, oh, I want that. And they just want the pattern because the pattern looks cool and stuff.
If that's the case, if that's the case, like I said before, we have shared a lot of our culture with the world. And that's not me being a gatekeeper. Of course, I want to pass on tradition and culture to my children, you know, my descendants. But I think if you are coming from outside of the Samoan culture and just getting it to look cool, then that's not paying homage to the fight, the sacrifices, and the pain that our forefathers went through. Yeah. So if you are thinking of getting it done and you are outside of the culture, and I'm trying to say this in a nice way.
Well, I'll translate it for you
I'm
after.
not a mean person. But just really think, you know, who are you doing this for? Yeah. And are you going to serve Samoa? Because that's what it's all about. Are you going to attempt to learn the language? Are you going to serve our communities? Are you going to be out in the village, you know, in our Maile Alipata, living the village way of life? You know, taking the bus every day, going to the plantation, you know, helping out these families. Really ask yourself these questions. Yeah. Because if your answer is no to those questions, then I would really encourage you not to get it done.
Yeah. Basically, Ella's going to step you out if she just sees you wearing that photo. That's what Ella's saying, everyone. Ella, before we leave, I did want to get your thoughts on the term plastic Samoan. Because I know whenever we've had convos in the past however many months about it, I've seen the face cringe. I've heard you literally say, I hate that term, but this is something you dislike. So can you explain what it is about the term plastic Samoan that you don't like?
Yeah, I really dislike that word. Just because I think our young people in particular already have enough issues with their cultural identity that this just adds to it. And a lot of the time it'll be our own young people referring to themselves as plastic, which I think is really disheartening because you know, I watched something the other day and it was about this very influential woman saying that she doesn't care how much or how little Samoan you have in you, you belong to us.
Yeah. I love that too. I saw that.
Yeah, and I love that, and I think that perfectly explains why we shouldn't be using that word. Obviously, people use it in like a joking manner and all that, but then really think about who you're saying that to, because they might have their own issues with how they identify themselves. Especially with a lot of, of Afakasi Samoans. I'm actually 3/4 Samoan. I have a quarter white side.
Really?
Yeah, so my dad is half American, half Samoan, from North Carolina, which is
why
really
you like
random.
New York City.
That's why I'm so fair.
Yeah.
But, I just really encourage our people to embrace everyone.
Yeah.
And just really think before you say terms like that, because our kids, they're so they're quite vulnerable, and it's this is hard to explain, but basically I don't like that word.
No, it makes sense, because that sometimes hits the identity of someone, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and it can be a bit of a sting. Ella, well, I want to finish up, but I'm just wondering if there's any sort of encouragement that you can leave the people with this morning, people who might not be as connected to their Samoan, that maybe when they hear plastic Samoan, that's, these people, it sort of cuts them a little bit. So what's your encouragement to those who would want to give Samoan a try, maybe a little bit nervous or just haven't yet done it? What's your encouragement to those who are Samoan but aren't really connected as they maybe would have wanted to compared to their aunties or cousins or anything like that?
I've said this quite a lot this week, but I will say it again. Just be patient and be brave. Trust that your ancestors will be with you on this journey, and know that you possess the qualities they have. They cross the largest ocean in the world, so they are strong, they are resilient, and they are full of mana, just like you. So do not be afraid, be brave, and immerse yourself in your culture. Embrace yourselves as Samoans, as people of the Pacific, and Ella Loheni.
I love it, Ella. Look at that. She woke up early to drop some gems on us this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Ella Loheni Stancil. If you want to hear her again, you'll be able to hear from her on, I believe, every Thursday, right?
Yes.
From 3 p.m. Herself and Lorenzo, they'll be looking after you. So make sure you keep her company when she does come back on. But I really appreciate your time this morning. Thank you, Ella.
Thank you, Levi.